Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Friday Harbor Film Festival of 2021. We're here today to have a discussion and Q&A with the creators of two films that we're showing this year. However, one of them is a Voyage Against Time with Steve Mackay. However, he may be out on location in some far-flung place in the world. We don't know yet, but he may pop his head in. In the meantime, we're very pleased to have Max Romey, who created If You Give a Beach a Bottle. Max is an award-winning Alaskan filmmaker, painter, and dyslexic, and he's been working to use his own blend of watercolors and filming to highlight complex environmental problems affecting his Alaskan community. Max, thank you so much for joining us today. We can tell that you're in Alaska.
Yeah, thanks. It's service in Alaska is sketchy at best. So I was somewhere beautiful, and right now I'm on the side of a road, just trying to get a few bars. But you can hear me, so here we are.
Well, good job. Thank you so much for trekking out where you could get some signal. We appreciate it. So your film that we're talking about today isn't one of your animated ones, but I have you here, and I really cannot resist making sure that I ask you, can you explain to us and our audience what one has to overcome while sketching outdoors in Alaska? And I pulled that line from your website. What does one have to overcome while sketching outdoors in Alaska?
Well, I mean, like painting, the hardest part of painting is starting. I mean, I think that's for everybody. A lot of people say, I wish I was an artist, but it's hard for everybody. Just starting to sketch is the hardest part of sketching. But Alaska had some other fun challenges. Trying to paint on a boat, seasickness happens almost instantly. As you can see, we're about a degree away from snow right now, so my fingers usually cut out before the paint freezes. Sometimes you have to use vodka or moonshine in your paint water to keep it from freezing. Um, Watercolor is not exactly the quick way to get a photo or an image in Alaska, but it's cool. It's sometimes when you slow down with a sketch or painting, you're able to kind of see the world move a little bit around you, and I love watercolor for that. And I think sometimes with these big scary topics, whether it's marine debris or climate change, the you need something kind of creative to wrap your head around it. It can be huge and depressing, and I think that creativity might be a way to see out of that.
Well, you've done a great job using the tools that you have available to you and really put them to use. And you look like you're shining and glowing and full of life from having, utilized what you're good at and using your gifts.
Well, I grew up dyslexic, like I still am dyslexic. And that means that I really struggle with reading and writing. 20% of the population is dyslexic, in fact. And I used to see that as a huge disadvantage. It was really tough when you want to tell a story and no one can see past the spelling error. It really, you have this idea that you want to get on a page and it doesn't work. And I found this really frustrating for a while, which is why I was really encouraged to get into watercolor and painting and filmmaking, as it was a way to tell a story without having to really be held back by the conventions of writing and reading, which were just difficult. Um, and I really was lucky to have a lot of people encourage me, a lot of teachers and friends and family, and they really made me feel like that was okay. And I'm now seeing the value of that because dyslexics are amazing problem solvers, and something like marine debris so complex and hard to explain. But if you are to share it through paintings or sketches or film or words or all of them combined, then all of a sudden you're able to kind of share this little slice of a complex thing in this really unique way. And so it's been an obstacle for so much of my life, but also I think sometimes obstacles lead you somewhere totally new because of that. And so I'm feeling really grateful for that, and hoping to do more of it.
Yeah, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, isn't it? Something that was an impediment has turned into a great gift and a blessing in disguise, because you may not have taken that path. You likely may not have done that.
Well, so many people too. I mean, I feel like it often sounds like the only way to make an actual difference in some of these big complex ideas is to do so the conventional way. Like you need to be a lawyer or a scientist or sure. But those are important, but you do need all kinds of paths there. And so whether you're a dyslexic painter who's a filmmaker, or an environmental lawyer, or maybe you're someone who struggles with something else, so you're more a graphic learner or something like that, if you can create the message of the film that you need to see, chances are there's other people who will benefit from that. It's like raising your hand in class. Maybe the teacher asks a question and you don't know it, you don't know the answer, but then if you raise your hand and ask the question, maybe there's 10 or 15 people who just weren't brave enough to raise their hand. And I've certainly benefited from that quite a lot. So my to be able to pay that forward a little bit, and I guess raise my hand and try out something that's a little bit different, because it would help me, but maybe it could help some other folks as well.
I love that analogy of being able to benefit from someone else raising their hand. And in the context of art, which you are an artist, most art is really built on someone else's art. We didn't, it all comes from somewhere, whether it's an idea or being inspired by another artist. Of course, everything that each of us creates is unique and, unique in all the universe. However, it's connected. So it's like the ecosystem of art in a sense, and the abundance of that ecosystem. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like good artists create or to steal or something like that. It's you really don't need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to creating. But what's kind of cool is, like, no matter what you make at this point in time, it is unique. Like no matter like, you are a unique individual, and the stories you tell and you create from you, and it hasn't, like, unless you've done it before, it hasn't done. And I think watercolors have been around since like Egypt, so they're not exactly a new medium. But what's happening today in the ocean world, in the climate, is new, and sometimes it's going to take an old approach to find new solutions to these new problems, I think.
Right. How would you say your approach is being received? What are some of the responses that you have gotten from your peers, and even from people who are not within, your world of peers? What are some of the responses that you're receiving?
It's been a leap to do some of these watercolors. I used to be much more a filmmaker. I'd travel around a lot. I would make films. And I was dreamed about doing more kind of in the creative side of things, but it was really scary. And about a year ago was like I quit being a freelance filmmaker, a traveling filmmaker, and just came home to Alaska. And I used to work with huge budget, big crews, very fast athletes in very exotic locations, and it was fun and interesting. We made good films, but the film made that has felt right, and it's gotten into more film festivals than any of my other films, the big budgets combined. And so it's been a really wonderful experience, and I think it's just been like this, like, kind of, slap yourself in the forehead moment of like a kind of stuff. Like my friend for decades, like, focus on the painting stuff. You love this. It's like where your heart is, and it just took me a really long time to really commit. This is just a start, just like a short film, but I'm really hoping that this opens the door and allows me to keep on moving forward, because it's like a sketch. Like the hardest thing is starting. My sketchbook goes with me in my backpack always, and it gets taken out like once every 10 hikes, because it is so scary to start anything. It's like the door mile. Like the first mile of your run is getting out the door, and it's the same thing and the same creating something new. And so for me, it's been a really wonderful experience, kind of getting that out, starting, and I really have family and people who see it and encourage me to thank, and I'm hoping to be able to pay that forward.
Well, I love being able to discuss this with you now, because in another 5 or 10 years, we'll be able to circle back and see where you've gone with it. It's going to be a great adventure.
I hope so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just want to let our audience know that We've got Max joining us from Alaska today, and so the audio connection might be a little bit spotty, but I think we're being able to get most of what he's expressing. But we're just lucky to have him appear at all. This is life on planet Earth in remote places, and so we appreciate what we can get from you, Max.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm hoping too for like the big side of things. Like, I don't know, we're like in 5 or 10, probably still in Alaska, probably still at bad service, maybe slightly better service, but I'm very much inspired by a lot of the other filmmakers. I mean, I haven't been able to see Steve's film yet, but like I know people who have and are really inspired by it. Those kind of like larger crew, bigger picture films are what really, I feel like, got me into filmmaking as a kid. And I think it's this next generation that's really the ones who are going to make a big difference. So really excited, but also so inspired by films like that and kind of those large through big picture that they're able to paint.
Well, and I can't wait for you to see his film. There's his main character, Bashar. I think you guys might. I'd love to see you two in a room together, because Bashar, at one point in the film, is standing on this little section of an island or an outcropping in the sea, and he's got a pile of garbage in front of him, debris, and he's just incensed. He's just like, absolutely not. This is not okay. And it really, I think everything that this man has strived to do comes from some deep internal engine. It's not an intellect, it's from who he is. So, just looking at your film, your work, I think I'd love to see you two sitting in a room together, enjoying a cup of tea or coffee. I think you'd love each other's company. So,
that would be amazing. And sorry.
I think we have a delay.
I was going to say, well, and when it comes to marine debris too, it really is. I mean, when you're somewhere like Alaska, I mean, when you see marine debris on these coasts, like, I have terrible cell phone service because there's no one around, and the roads are really the only place you get it. But I mean, Alaska is very, very remote, but the amount of marine debris that's here is ridiculous. You're out in places that might not have been visited for hundreds of years, and you're finding like laundry baskets, like hundreds of them sometimes, or bottles, or all of these like bits of man-made trash that are really everywhere, not breaking down, they're breaking up. They're just becoming more and more ingrained in the environment, and that feeling when you're out there is so strong, so like stark. But it does start here. I mean, this is a highway right here. Just on the way over, I saw 2 bottles and a plastic bag, and we're right next to Turnagain Arm, which is right out there, and it's only a matter of time before those wash into a drainage, into Turnagain Arm, and then into the ocean. And most of the trash in Alaska doesn't come from Alaska, but it all starts on the ground. It all starts on land. And then it has these long journeys, but a lot of it does end up in the ocean, 8 million tons per year. And so that passion is easy to feel somewhere like Alaska. It's easy to feel somewhere like on the beach when you find these piles of trash, but they start on land, and we need to be able to bring that passion and those solutions from land, because it doesn't matter how much you pick up if it keeps on getting put into the ocean.
So would you say, now it sounds like you understand some of the global dynamics of debris and plastic and where it comes from. So would you liken the issue of this debris somewhat to climate change, in the sense that it spreads everywhere, it affects everyone, but where does it start? Who can you go to for accountability and change when it might have originated in another country and we don't have a sort of influence there? So is that really the case with plastic and debris?
That's a great question. I mean, the marine debris is climate change, as far as it's not, it's not carbon, it's not being put into the atmosphere. It might be a little bit slower than that, but it is petroleum based. The vast majority of this is plastics, and we are changing the climate. We just have an opportunity to pick it up now by hand, but in 100 years we won't. marine debris is breaking up. It will never break down. And what happens is these pieces of plastic, they break up smaller and smaller and smaller, picking up more and more toxins usually, and then they're going to work their way into the environment through bioaccumulation. And plastics have only been around for a little under 100 years. Um, in a big way, like under the last probably, and now they're everywhere. And so it really is kind of this race against time to buy some time to pick up plastics while we still can, because once they get too small, they will alter the environment. Here in Alaska, we have these amazing cycles of salmon where the nitrogen from the top of the mountains is from salmon. They swim upstream and they die, and all that nitrogen and nutrients from the ocean make the streams really fertile. But we're seeing this happen with plastic now, where bears are dragging plastic up into the woods, and the styrofoam is kind of is being sort of broken up into the trees, and it's really working its way into this cycle and into this environment. And so, climate change has this picture of these large scale things that affect the climate and the environment. But marine debris will do that in a very large way as well. And I think it's something that by the time we see its effects, it'll be too late. So it's more important than ever to really be able to visually bring this up and show people kind of where this is going, because it's new, and we're not gonna. If I were to give it an analogy, like the Exxon Valdez spill, when all the oil spilled in Alaska and killed all the birds, that would be like a gunshot. Maybe it bleeds a lot. It's very scary, but like you can survive that. Marine debris is like stage 4 cancer. Hopefully not at that stage yet, but if you don't do something about it now, it might be irreversible in a very big way, and it will affect a whole lot more than the single area that you could have cleaned up in a decade. This will be something that will affect the environment so long as humans exist, because you won't be able to kind of get those microplastics, those bioaccumulation out of the environment.
Max, can yeah, I think what you're starting to explain is something that has been a layer deeper than what most of the public thinks about. Just in general, we see plastic as this benign, innocuous thing. It doesn't, it's kind of ugly and it gets around and so on, and might clog some drains and kill some whales. But what are the implications as it breaks down? Is it just there, or does it then start to have working its way into the ecosystems and numerous species bodies and into vegetation and whatnot? Now, I imagine that's kind of at a cutting edge of science. It's unprecedented, and probably not a lot of research has been done. But what do you know about that? So besides the fact that, and I know what you mean, it gets smaller and smaller. It's probably getting harder to find beaches that don't have some amount of microplastics in them amid the sand and gravel particles. So I know what you mean. It's getting tinier and tinier. But what is that illness that you're talking about? What are the implications that ensue from that as time goes by?
Oh, well, I mean, harder to find beaches. It's harder to find humans that don't have traces of plastic. There's some horrifying studies about basically babies being born with traces of microplastic. And even a child, like it really is going to affect a lot of the shore and the coast first. But it's going to everything, because plastics don't break down. My friend Bonnie really kind of was able to share this, and it really had a big impact. Plastics don't break down; they break up. It's not like sand either. Sand can break down finer and finer, and it's pretty inert. Plastics are not sponges, and they are able to. The bioaccumulation of plastics is a real concern. So there's a lot of scientists, a lot of amazing work done on it, but it's something we really don't know a lot about, and it's going to be a much larger issue. But right now we can deal with a lot of it. It is in large pieces, but but we need plastic to live. It makes our cars more efficient. It makes our life possible. But the way we treat it and the way we kind of dispose of it, it could be its downfall.
Oh, that's interesting. So we might actually be able to manage it better.
We have to, yeah.
It might be a two-edged sword. So it sounds like Steve is here, and he's going to jump in with us. Hi, Steve. Welcome.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We sure can. Yeah.
Hello. Greetings. Greetings from Edinburgh. I missed the start of this, so bring me up to speed. Sorry, are we talking about plastics? Or
I sure will. Well, I'm Heather, and I'm your moderator here today at the Friday Harbor Film Festival. And we have Steve Romey, who is in Alaska.
Hey.
I'm so sorry, I mixed up names. Max Romey. My apologies. I'm turning you into one. Max has hit the road for a decent connection to join us today. And Max did a short film on debris and plastics that are taking over our oceans. So I almost wish that Bashar were with us today. I think the two of them would hit it off great. So I'll just give a quick introduction to Steve here. Steve's film is A Voyage Against Time, and he's a shooting director and producer with much too long of a list of credits and experience for me to fit into my short intro. But you've done some really adventurous and outdoor work, and Steve has been bestowed with the United Arab Emirates Conservation and Climate Award. And Steve, why don't you just give us a little sampling of some of the various subjects and material that you have covered in your career as an idea?
I mean, where do I start? Okay, I bought the T-shirt in terms of being a cameraman all my life, so that took on the mantle of being a wedding videographer at the start, and then obviously you got a chance. I went to art college. I was at art college for 4 years, got a degree in graphic design, but in the late 90s when that happened, I actually mixed media. So it became video and graphic design, and I was actually marked down for it before it was actually called multimedia, so to speak. But then I got a chance for a news channel, which was entertainment. So it was all like football, rugby, the Spice Girls, Dolly the Sheep, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I filmed Dolly the Sheep when she was alive, before she was in a formaldehyde tank in the Edinburgh Museum here, you know, as a clone. So things like that. And then I went on to work with Setanta, and it was European Cup games, Celtic and Rangers. And then I worked with the Scottish Government, doing a lot of politics, press conferences, all that kind of stuff. But my love has always been for music, wildlife, and film. So documentary kind of takes on, you know, it gives you plenty of scope, plenty of subject matter. And obviously conservation was always my thing, because, you know, when it came to politicians, they didn't take into account greenbelt policies and national parks and things like that. So they would kind of destroy, they wouldn't factor that into it. But I will say, from the filming in the United Arab Emirates with A Voyage Against Time, my experience is still pollution. I think there's no climate emergency. There's a corporation emergency. And it's to do with politicians and the higher classes creating an illusion that the lower classes and the middle classes have to pick up the tab for. My experiences as plastic. Coca-Cola should be hauled over the coals for this. Everywhere you go, plastic. Okay, refuse sites, overfishing. Absolutely, you hardly ever hear about overfishing or a waterside development. I'm sorry, I've won a climate change award, and the irony is it's made out of plastic. And I was like, what are you doing? So, I'm besides myself. I'm going, did you not get the memo? Make out of bamboo or chocolate or wood or something. Don't make it out of plastic. In fact, I'll show you. Hang on, look at this.
Please do. Thanks for keeping it real, Steve. We appreciate it.
I mean, come on, seriously. I mean, that's just, I like the logo, that's fantastic, but come on. Oh, anyway, so my point being, I'm not going to, I've got kids, I've got daughters, I've got a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old, and there's far too much propaganda pushing the younger generation into madness. It's all about conservation. It's not, the climate's going to change, the planet's going to warm up, cool down, whatever. It's forcing us into this chaos, political chaos and things like that. But absolutely, in terms of marine life and you know, polluting those microplastics, for instance, they're quite damaging. So we have to keep an eye on things like that, you know. But my experience of the Gulf and the voyage against time was amazing because I was out at sea all the time, and you could see things happening. I thought the fish were okay, the numbers were okay, but they're being overfished. The Dubai and Qatar and Oman are all into seaside resorts. I mean, even the Planet that they built years ago, nobody's buying housing there. What a waste of time that was, and that destroyed a lot of the natural wildlife areas around there. So you just see complete madness and inconsideration for environments. That's all. There's no climate change, climate emergency for me. I'm sorry. Even David Attenborough I can't listen to now, and Chris Packham go, what are you doing? There's scientists around the world arguing about all this. I don't think we need to panic. We need to analyse this and look at pollution first. Look at the Amazon, for instance, with the corporations slashing and burning the Amazon. No, red card, enough. Somebody has to step in and go, no, exactly. Sorry, I'm getting all Scottish about this. The madness is everywhere. But no, I'm absolutely privileged to be on that journey out at sea in the Gulf and having dolphins coming up and osprey. I got my shot, the osprey and the chicks, and I thought, oh, I've graduated, you know. So it's been a long time coming to get an opportunity like that. But I care. That's the problem. I do care, but most people don't. They're all nutters. Have you looked around at people? They're all mad as a box of frogs. They don't care. So yes, I think we need to slap people in the face a bit with conservation and conservation solutions. But I'm not buying the whole plastic climate change madness. So that's my tuppence worth, guys. Sorry. Greetings from Edinburgh, by the way.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, there you go.
Really appreciate you keeping it real.
Yeah, come on. Yeah. Smell the coffee, you know?
Yeah. Well, okay, one thing I want to start off with here is I'd like to pay my respects to Jonathan Ali Khan.
Yeah, Jonathan.
He passed away in 2019, was it?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. Jonathan was a real pioneer for that region, you know. I don't think he got enough credit for his talents and his passion for it. You know, I think the lifestyle and the changing financial climate caught up with Jonathan over there, you know. So, yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, I was glad to see some shots of him in your film at the end, and I really did pick up a sense of who he was from the expression on his face. I imagine that pretty much everyone in your project, on your crew, was coming at it for the right reasons, for their own, because they felt being part of this project.
Yeah, that was the feature. We've got 6 times 26-minute films series for that journey. But with the 90 minutes, I readjusted the editing so that we had Jonathan in it, and we had a little bit about what the crew went through. Because I tell you what, I've never evacuated a ship that's hit rocks before. I tell you, you know, you do your selfies and your what do you call it, life jacket, and then it starts listing, and then fridges fall over down in the absolute. You get a fright, honestly. You absolutely brick it. And then I turned round and I saw the crew praying to Allah, praying to Allah in the back of the boat, and I'm going, what are you doing praying? The ship's sinking. And I'm going up to them, grabbing them, going, Allah's not going to provide now. We need off this boat. Shout the Coast Guard and the army over. They watched us for about an hour. But I tell you what, it was interesting because we were getting nowhere for a couple of weeks and a month. We were getting hit by everything. The rib was sinking. We had to get another ship. We were delayed by 2 or 3 weeks at New Year with a new ship. We'd lost so much time. We were getting stuck in sand spits. The captain was hitting on my partner. And there was fights on the boat. It was nuts. But then one day something happened. Yeah, the drone came across and hit our captain in the head. Came across, skiffed the top of the water, come back and landed in the boat. And after all the madness, I thought, right, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. So I thought, right, we're out the back of this now. We're going to be rewarded with magic wildlife stuff. And sure enough, the next day was the dolphins and the dugongs turning up within half an hour of each other. And I was just like, absolutely, thank you. You know, we were all ready to jump ship and give up the project. But it just shows you, I could just sense, up until a certain point, we didn't really have a proper storyline. But then afterwards, when we started seeing the wildlife that's living in this environment and addressing it and comparing it and contrasting to the plastics, that's when Bashar had a story to tell. You know, we didn't have anything. We didn't just want him going to press conferences and, talking about it, because that's not real. That's not, okay, we've all got voices, we've all got social media, but I didn't want it to be one big press conference. And the dolphins, they wouldn't go away after a while. And I was like, right, I'm all dolphined out. We've got loads of footage. And I was like, wow. But we waited. We went through the pain of it, and then we got it. And it was hugely humbling and rewarding. When you see the film, sometimes I go, wow, did that actually happen? Because it's a surreal experience, filmmaking, Don't you agree? Yeah. I
do. Max, what do you think?
I think, it's a good thing people can't see the process, I think, for the most part. They'd be horrified. It's nice that they see the nice final thing, but making filmmaking just like one of those ski runs where it's like you think you're gonna fall flat on your face like most of it, and then for some reason you're able to make it down to the base of the mountain, and then the trick is to make people believe that you did that on purpose.
It's not a glamorous process. I think the polished item, the editing and the bringing all those creative elements together makes it look so more sexy and sparkly, and that's the thing about storytelling with documentaries and drama is it's an illusion. The pain you go through, you deserve that bloody award at the end of it. The pain you go through. I'm joking. No, but it just feels like an unthankful process, this whole industry at times. Even the wildlife sector, even in Bristol with Wildscreen, when you go down, everyone wants to be a filmmaker now and conservation and that kind of thing. So that's all saturated. It's very tough.
Actually, that leads me to a question for you, Steve. The point of your film is to get people to, be aware of the beauty of the world and to care about the world and to get active. And you created this beautiful film. Now, it's not very likely that many people are going to go to that region in a tourist sense, but is your hope to get people mobilized to care about nature from a safe distance and not,
I think that's a good point. I think there's nothing better than getting out and being part of something like that. You taste it, you smell it, and when you look at those pictures, it's like filming a landscape on your phone. You're there, and you're only capturing this little part of it, but you're not getting the peripherals, and going, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, the pain, it's challenging technical aspects of filmmaking, creative. I mean, it drains you. It's a brain drain. You're thinking creatively and technically, and how it's going to read, how it's going to fit in the edit suite, how people might think, oh no, I can't have that. That looks like virtue signaling or something like that. It has to be kind of genuine for me. I like off the cuff, more spontaneous human nature than staged, and it's quite hard with a wildlife documentary. But yeah, I think yeah, armchair warriors and keyboard warriors can do a lot better than they've done over the last few years. Instead of picking people up for their human nature and their freedom of speech, I reckon they should be doing more in terms of hauling up the power elite with their private jets and all that, and hypocrisy on a daily basis, rather than shooting down the masses that have been behaving themselves. It's not the masses that want to go to war. It's not the masses that pollute the jungle, the seas. It's the corporations and the politicians that are destroying the planet, not the masses of people. Yes, but there's too much pollution. I mean, what was that 20 pence for a plastic bag thing all about? Oh, help the environment. Yeah, no, it's not. It's another tax so you can carry your stuff home. It doesn't go to any environmental stuff, certainly not in Scotland here or England or UK. So that is nonsense. I'm tired of lies like that. Every time, 20 pence. You show me where my 20 pence goes and then I'll be fine. It's almost like seeing is believing. I'm a doubting Thomas. I need to see the end result. I need to see where my money's going to make sure that it is actually helping someone or people or environments out. I'm not handing it to power people. Do you know what I mean? Do you get where I'm coming from?
I hear you 100%.
Packaging for apples and pears and everything is still plastic. What happened to the big jungle leaves you could wrap up and tie with something? That would look brilliant, actually. You know, some supermarkets have that. It looks more organic, you know. So the packaging thing's not gone away. It's just madness. Anyway.
I
get a bit expressive.
You're bringing up a good point, and this is human nature. It's greenwashing. Package it up, make it look good. But now, Max, so you're kind of a little bit the next generation. What does your generation have to say? Are you going to fall for the same old tricks? You know, how does you know what Steve's talking about?
Yeah.
He's been around the block.
That's a good question. I mean, I think you're entirely right. It's kind of like we're given two choices and they're both bad choices. You know, Coca-Cola says, do you want the bottle that has, do you want this plastic bottle or this plastic bottle is slightly less plastic? You know, you really don't have too much of a choice. And so I think it is very much on these large corporations. These governments are going to be able to do more than individuals ever could. It doesn't matter if I recycle or my neighbors recycle. It's not on us, really. There are these bigger pieces. And I think it is also really depressing. I'm 27 and I have, you know, hopefully another 50 plus years in me. And the thinking of the ways that, like, especially in Alaska, like thinking of the ways that this Arctic climate could and will change, both with pollution, both with more people. Like it's a scary thing, but also I think it's an inspiring thing because huge problems mean that there are huge solutions possible. And so I kind of feel like our generations are the ones that have the opportunity to come up with these massive solutions. And I think those are going to happen at a big level. They need to be, whether it's I'm not the politician, actually. I'm going to totally step that back. As a filmmaker, I think my job is basically just to kind of point these things out in a pretty enough way that enough people can see them, because we protect what we see. If you can see something, you know it, you'll protect it. And we just don't know so much of what's out there that it's easy to just not care when it disappears or gets polluted or is threatened.
But absolutely, Coca-Cola. Why are Coca-Cola and all your market chains? There's a guy in the Philippines that's created a biodegradable, edible, plastic-style bag that's made out of yams, right? Why are Sainsbury's and all the big boys not hiring him and his company to mass produce this stuff that could be munched by turtles and octopus in the sea and munch. Oh, it's all fine. You know, that's what we want. We want that. Why is that guy not a millionaire after a year and a half of him going, yum, plastic bags? I mean, well, it's not plastic, but it looks and feels similar, you know. There are solutions out there, but they're not been taken up right now. And we've been banging on about this for about, 10, 15, 20 years now? I can't remember how far that complaint goes, you know. But for your generation, I thought my generation was under pressure, but yours, gee, Christ, right?
No pressure.
In your shoes, mate. Honestly, I'm shouting enough and upsetting people on a regular basis because I have daughters. I have a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old, and not enough people are going, what are you doing? What are you talking about? You're mad. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I'd rather upset people for ethics, morals, common sense, instinct, and research, rather than jumping on bandwagons because their friends will think bad of them. No, you go with your gut and your spirit and your soul, and you don't give in to who you are, whether you're going to be unpopular or cancelled. Cancelled. Oh, seriously. Anyway, freedom of speech, and yes, keep driving through the wildlife. I mean, right? The reason I love wildlife is because people suck, right? And many times as a badger or a cat or a dog look to you and going, "What are you doing? These are all mad." You know, we're not in sync with nature anymore. We've been taken away from Mother Nature and doing kind of artificial things now. And you get some animals that just look at you and you go, what planet are you guys on? But I love that because animals are disarming. When you see them on Facebook, the thread and all that, there's something about Mother Nature that's it's like oxygen, you know, when you can't breathe. And then you look at human behaviour and what's going on around you, you go, oh, I'm going up the hills, I'm going to turn into Captain Caveman and just spear a few fish just to eat and that kind of thing. It kind of drives you mad. But yeah, the rewarding part of being a filmmaker is you can show a beautiful journey of people trying to tell a story, but not too much of the hitting over the head thing. I think people know the score, but they're ignoring it. You know? Sorry. Rant over.
Well, the rant will be over when the problems are fixed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's never, to some extent, you're never going to fix a lot of these problems. Like as soon as we pick up all the plastic in the ocean, then more kind of, continually going. I think a lot of it is kind of like you said, like not necessarily, it's not one problem that you can bandwagon and fix. It's almost like a mentality. And yeah. I think that's what this generation is getting good at, is that they're putting the wilderness, they're putting these things as priorities. And a lot of it does have to do with money. I mean, like, why isn't the banana leaf, I'm not a geopolitician, but like I live in Alaska, which is an oil state, and I can tell you there's a lot of stockpiles of oil. So they're going to want to sell all that. It's profit. There's a lot of profit to be had in a lot of this. And plastic isn't all bad because it does allow us to do things better than we could in other ways, but how we treat it is not good. And it's a lot has to do with profit. It's very cheap to do, what we're doing. But we need to start valuing the things of what they're actually valued. There's a whole lot of wilderness in Alaska, so it's really cheap to degrade it. But if you actually appreciate what this place is, or what the rainforest is, or what the ocean is, you start to realize that polluting it should not be free, because these places have inherent value, and also a massive monetary value. And like that's my generation. That's my that will be my kids' generation and their generation, and the small amount of profit that we can make today will cost a huge amount later on. And I think that these generations are realizing that, and that they're going to do something about it. And I'm just excited to be able to kind of be part of that movement.
It's great to hear you're from Alaska. My next project involves Colin the Irishman, who's in the film. Colin Wong. He's half Chinese, half Irish. Now there's a curveball. That ticks a big diversity box for me without thinking. But Colin and Jim have formed a team called Team Cork, or pure cork. It sounds like a carry-on film, but they're entering the Yukon 1000 survival race next
nice.
month. So it's Whitehorse away up to, is it Dyson Bridge? Or yeah. So I might have to pick your brains, young man, to find out about, you know, logistics and grizzly bears and all sorts of stuff. So it's a kayaking adventure, training in Ireland, Scotland, maybe the Baja in Mexico, and then doing the Yukon race, and it's a survival kayaking thing, yeah. So then again, you can tell that story of pollution and animal numbers or you know, salmon, the salmon ladders and all that. So you have an excuse to delve into that again. It's a hybrid between a blue chip wildlife film and a kind of observational documentary, character-led, you know. The channels are still funny about that one when you fuse it together, you know. It has to be character-led or blue chip, green chip. But when you fuse the two together, like A Voyage Against Time had mixed reviews. I love the way Jonathan's script writing, and he threaded these two elements together. And I want to continue that, you know. But no, I just love the world's wildlife and marine life and bird life is awe-inspiring for me, you know. There's not enough of it. You know, people suffer from depression. They should be out the great outdoors instead of hugging trees, hugging bears and animals, you know.
Great healer.
Heavy. Forget the trees for a while. Hug a wee, a lynx or a moose or something. I don't know. Canadian wildlife, Alaskan wildlife is phenomenal, man. Sorry.
I hope that you get to hook up with Max, and I also hope that you get to see some of his paintings, his watercolors are exquisite.
I just hope that you don't hug a bear or a moose. I would not advise hugging bears or a moose.
I know.
They're usually fatal to hug one of those two.
Yeah. I watched Grizzly Man, don't worry. I watched Grizzly Man, Jesus. Yeah, it won't be that ridiculous. I did my risk assessment. It was all bears and mustard sprays and guns and stuff, and then COVID hit, and then there was another 20 pages of health and safety, and the budget's gone like that. And I thought, oh my God, you know, filmmaking's not fun. But listen, yeah, no, absolutely. Send me links, get in touch, reach out. And is there any way of getting in touch with each other? Is it through the website or the festival?
We'll connect you guys. We absolutely make sure you two are connected via email. Yeah, I'm so happy to hear you'll be doing a project in Max's home territory, Steve.
Well, that's it. But RTE are going to put up 20% of the budget. It's about $1 million we're looking at. And we're trying to get the other money. We're talking to an Irish co-producer. There's pots of money in Ireland and Scotland. We're trying to get both of them. But there's also Irish-Canadian pots of cash as well. So it's all politics, you know, and it's quite depressing that all the red tape you have to go through. When 10 years ago or 15 years ago, this would have been commissioned. It would have been commissioned like that. So one channel would pay and then you'd serve the rights later on and all this. So I don't know, I'm running out of time on this one. But please, if there's any help or any, you know, production help, please get in touch. I'd love that, you know.
Oh, good stuff. I will relay that and spread the word. You know, the more the merrier. And it takes a big village. Tell me, what is Bashar up to now, Steve?
Bashar is doing his kayaking school in Kuwait City. I've encouraged him to do another adventure out there, but he's not willing to put his hand in his pocket. He was exec producer on that, and it was all his money. I'm still trying to find a sale for it, for the 6 parts. And I'm thinking of the Emirates airline. Maybe we could have it as an in-flight entertainment, just to, I mean, so he can recoup some of his money again, because he's lost faith in the whole TV channel thing, because you've got Love Nature, you've got Disney, Discovery, Virgin Media, and they're kind of not as keen on anything from the Middle East. I don't know what it is about the Middle East, but they're not keen on it everywhere else in the world. Africa, lions, and Canada bears, and all sorts of stuff. They're fine with that, but there's something about the Middle East thing they're not into, which is weird. So it's been a hard sell, the 6-part series. You know,
It's
Bashar.
so unique. I mean, it's such a unique thing to be placed in that region, and it was certainly of the top highest quality you could get. It's a beautiful film.
We had technical problems. We didn't have the best of kit. The salt water was destroying the drone and the radio mics. I shot his full interview on Red Island with no microphone. Fortunately, there was no wind. We were standing at a cliff side. So I managed to get him. And it was just, honestly, the things that went wrong, I couldn't believe it. But hey, we got a beautiful film. But also, Bashar was so fed up spending money on it that I recommended Depeche Mode's Cover Me track. There was an instrumental part. It's like it's absolutely stunning. And I had it on the first edit for widescreen. But because Depeche Mode were only going to charge 400 quid, and they're one of the biggest names in the world, and I said, he didn't understand the whole European, British commercial thing of marrying music, good music, with good pictures. He said, why do we need this? And I said, look, you need to spend the money. You need to spend money on good music as well. And then we had to eventually take it down because he didn't want to spend money in the American region and the British region. So it's been quite hard to deal with someone from that region because there's a stigma attached to business and money. When it comes to money, they just don't want to depart with it. So it's been hard work working with Bashar. He just wants to be this voice of nature in Kuwait City and around that. But he's not fulfilling these other projects that he wants to do. And I said, look, you have to take another risk. You might not hit straight gold first time round, you know. But you know, so I don't know.
So in other words, the film really needs to reach a wider audience, and if the current channels aren't working, then we need to spread the word and to encourage him because. You know, you can immediately see, and we only have about 3 or 4 minutes left. We'll have to wrap up. But, you know, your very first opening scene, Steve, it's very apparent that this man is exceptionally devoted and committed to the well-being of nature. So I think that what struck me the most is that is universal, no matter where you are in the world. We are all feeling that. And he is an absolute leader in that sense. So I don't think that this film needs to go away in a corner. It needs to come out and shine very bright in the world. Yeah.
No, I know it's frustrating for me. I mean, that, you know, you pray for winning the lottery at times just so you can make your own films that make you happy, first and foremost. And then you know it will resonate. It's like a musician. If you make music, you make music for yourself that you like. And then you will build an audience eventually. And I think filmmaking's a bit like that. If you love wildlife, then, you know, people have eyes and, you know, we're always in wonder and awe with wildlife, wondering what's going through their mind. And it's devastating to see us have a huge hand in the killing of so many species at times through negligence, like oil slicks or, you know, the rainforests and things like that. I can't. Orangutans, I still can't see orangutan films, man, because of peanut butter. I mean, we've actually got a clip of Bashar making peanut butter.
We've got 1 minute left, guys.
Okay, sorry. But he makes it without palm oil, and he nearly takes his hand off for this. It was hilarious. We're all in tears. I'll send you the clip. He's funny. He sounds like Borat of the Waves. I kept calling him Borat all the time. It's Steve, we have a dolphin over here. It's nice. So that I kept calling him that. But that's the thing. There's some kind of humour and family value to Bashar. There's an innocence about him that's watchable. You know, he's like a big child. You know.
He is absolutely authentic. And listen, I've got to wrap it up. I wish we could extend this the recording, but I wish you both so much success moving forward, and I just want you to keep doing what you're doing and keep telling us here about it. Please stay in touch with us. We want to learn from your work and your projects and to help support you. And we will connect both of you together and look forward to you know, what's coming out of both of your work moving forward and potentially even your relationship. You never know.
I can send you the pitch for Cork on the Yukon. Cork on the Yukon, I think, rolls off the tongue quite nicely. So if you want to both see it and give me some feedback, that'd be wonderful. As a case of networking or whatever, that'd be welcome.
Absolutely. Wonderful. I love your spirit, Steve, and you as well, Max. And I just love your spirit. Thank you absolutely from the bottom of my heart for everything that you're doing. I feel really honored to have sat with you today and had this discussion, and for keeping it real.
Yeah, plastic words.
We have,
I believe it in my face. I can't lie. I was like, anyway, I had to pretend.
We have a much more meaningful award for both of you, and it comes from the heart. So,
that's what it's all about. Thank you very much.
Well, let's stay in touch, guys. Thanks again for stepping in, and all the best to both of you. I give you all my love and appreciation for everything that you're doing and for who you are.
Thanks very much. Nice to be part of it. And stay in touch, guys. Stay in touch, yeah? Okay.
Absolutely.